In other news this morning, U.S. naval ships are now sailing towards the Korean Peninsula. The USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier is leading the group. The U.S. military says moving the ships is a prudent measure to maintain readiness and the presence in the Western Pacific.
The U.S. Navy is moving an aircraft carrier group toward the Korean Peninsula in a show of force as concerns mount at the Pentagon over North Korea's advancing weapons program. The USS Carl Vinson and its support vessels are moving from Singapore, according to a government source, just weeks after the North conducted another ballistic missile test. That test failed, but its leader, Kim Jong-un, has also indicated they could be ready to launch an intercontinental missile as early as the 15th, a national holiday in the reclusive state. The Navy regularly conducts patrols in the region, amplified during President Barack Obama's diplomatic pivot toward Asia. In fact, the Vinson itself was in a military exercise off South Korea's coast just last month. But this latest move comes just mere days after President Donald Trump pressed his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, during a visit in Florida to do more to curb the North's nuclear ambitions. And Trump has previously warned he would act unilaterally if China was unable to assist. A recent White House review of strategy against North Korea emphasizes China's role as a mediator and additional sanctions, all of them low-risk measures. However, it still contains military options, including a so-called preemptive strike.
In other news this morning, U.S. naval ships are now sailing towards the Korean Peninsula. The USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier is leading the group. The U.S. military says moving the ships is a prudent measure to maintain readiness and the presence in the Western Pacific. Just last week, North Korea test-fired a ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan. North Korea said the airstrikes on Syria proved that North Korea's nuclear weapons are justified to protect the country against Washington's, quote, ever more reckless moves for a war.
President Donald Trump lashing out at North Korea Tuesday after it threatened, quote, catastrophic consequences for any U.S. action. Trump tweeting, North Korea is looking for trouble. If China decides to help, that would be great. If not, we will solve the problem without them. The blast coming as a U.S. Navy strike group advanced towards the Korean Peninsula in a show of force, and after top U.S. diplomat Rex Tillerson implied the American airstrike on Syria after last week's gas attack could serve as a model when other countries violate international norms. Foreign policy correspondent David Brunstrom.
They're trying to send a message of deterrence. What they'll be hoping is to change North Korea's calculations.
The U.S. wants North Korea to abandon its nuclear program. And President Donald Trump's meeting with President Xi Jinping of China last week did result in North Korea's biggest ally expressing worry about its recent missile tests. But Brunstrom says Trump's options are far more limited in dealing with North Korea than they were in the missile attack on a Syrian airfield.
I don't think you can compare Syria and North Korea. Most people would agree there's no such thing as a limited military option when it comes to North Korea. The risks are huge in terms of setting off a very major conflict. North Korea has a huge array of artillery in range of the capital city of South Korea. I think from the North Korean calculation, President Trump will not be willing to take the risk of any sort of military action against North Korea because of the number of casualties that it could cause.
And with another round of muscle flexing by North Korea expected to coincide with the birthday of North Korea founder Kim Il-sung, the U.S. may soon learn whether its tougher posture on the world stage will make any difference in Pyongyang.
About a giant light streaking across our sky.
Did you guys see that?
Del Rates was sitting in her East Lake home in Chula Vista broadcasting live when she freaked out over the mysterious flash of light.
Did you guys see that?
I was absolutely scared because I thought it was coming at me. I thought I was going to die, to be honest.
Rates' friend then shared the clip on Twitter, which went viral, but she's not the only one to see the flash of light. Several other Fox 5 viewers emailed reporting they saw the same ball of fire across San Diego County. A couple people even sending in dashcam video.
Oh, look, did you see that? Something shot across the sky.
The American Meteor Society received over 260 reports of similar sightings, with reports from Los Angeles, Arizona, and Nevada. So what was it? Space expert Francis French with the San Diego Air and Space Museum explains.
We don't know exactly what it was. It could have been a piece of rock, it could have been a piece of metal, but it was something re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Could have been a piece of an old satellite, some space junk up there. But something coming in at that speed, coming in through the air, is going to burn up and cause a huge fireball.
French says that fireball was a little larger than this small copper ball, which is a little bit bigger than a gumball. He says they happen hundreds of times a day. We just don't always see them. Monday just happened to be at the right time, at the right place.
As it went down, it got brighter. Whatever it was, I'm just glad that it didn't come to my house.
Meteorologist Vicki Rappis, more on the sightings across our area tonight.
And it's very cool to see that. We started getting several reports into our newsroom on Facebook, on social media, Twitter as well, coming in from Locust on into Salisbury, Mooresville, of this bright fireball moving across the sky. A lot of the reports said that it was coming in from the southeast and just seemed to move just above the horizon at anywhere between 8:40 tonight to 8:45. And a fireball is basically like a very bright meteor. And I want to show you this video. This was coming out of Troutman tonight. And again, if you look very closely, you can see that flash on the screen. Some people on social media were saying it was the brightest they've ever seen.
Bomb in eastern Afghanistan after a Green Beret was killed fighting ISIS there. Jennifer Griffin is at the Pentagon right now and has all the breaking details. This is breaking right now. Jennifer, what do we know?
Well, Sandra, this is not just a large bomb. It is the largest bomb in the Air Force arsenal. It's known as the Massive Ordnance Air Blast, MOAB, also called the mother of all bombs in common parlance by the Air Force. And we've just been able to confirm with the Pentagon that the U.S. Air Force in Afghanistan, in Nangarhar province, dropped this bomb, which is 21,000 pounds of ordnance. It's the first time that it has been used in combat. It dropped it in Nangarhar province, not far from where that Green Beret Special Forces soldier was killed on Saturday. He was killed in small arms fire as he was going against some ISIS targets in Afghanistan. Now we understand that this 21,000-pound bomb has been dropped not long ago. Again, it has never been used in combat before. It was developed by the Air Force in 2003. We started hearing about it at the start of the Iraq War. I remember it was often talked about in terms of a potential weapon to be used in the event that there were military strikes against Iran's nuclear program, because this is a very special kind of bomb that is a concussive weapon. It does not penetrate into the ground, but in fact, it is capable of destroying tunnels and a large surface area. So we're getting more details right now, but this has just occurred in Afghanistan as far as we know.
About that, Jennifer, the tunnels that you mentioned, what more can you tell us specifically about the area in which this large bomb was dropped?
Well, Nangarhar province is in eastern Afghanistan. It's along the Pakistan border, a very mountainous region. It is not clear how, what is baffling at this moment in time is how would one know that there were not civilians in that area, because this is a very mountainous area, and the bomb blast radius for a bomb that is 21,000 pounds, just to give you some idea, Sandra, a Tomahawk missile has 1,000 pounds of warhead on it, explosive on board. And remember, 59 of those Tomahawks were fired into Syria. We saw the effects of those blasts. So it's really hard to imagine. I think we're getting a video right now of the Air Force test of the MOAB, the Massive Ordnance Air Blast. And you can see that it is a massive, massive blast. Clearly, this is designed to send a signal not only to those ISIS fighters in Afghanistan in the wake coming just days after that Green Beret was killed in that very same area, but also, given all that's going on around the world right now, and with the Pentagon anticipating that North Korea could carry out a sixth nuclear test in the coming days to mark the anniversary of the North Korean, the birthday of the North Korean leader's grandfather. Clearly, this is designed to send a signal to U.S. adversaries that the U.S. has quite a range of weapons in its arsenal, and to deter any kind of adventure.
Thanks for being with us, Mr.
Delighted to be with you.
Fantastic. So a lot of news to discuss that's been going on this past week, and especially today. Let's talk about the
latest development in Afghanistan and the president's decision to drop this massive bomb, what kind of message does this send to North Korea and Syria, let alone ISIS?
Well, I think, first of all, the decision to use the largest non-nuclear bomb that we have sent a clear signal of strength, building on what he did last week with Syria, and is also a reminder both to the Russians and to the North Koreans that we have enormous assets if we want to use them. I think it's very interesting. You now have, with General Mattis and with General McMaster, real professionals who are giving the president serious military advice, exactly the sort of thing that Barack Obama always rejected. And I think what you're finding is that when the president turns and says, what are my options, it turns out there are a lot more options than Obama ever thought there were.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to be firm. And now we are getting to see exactly what kind of president Mr. Trump is. And he's being very true, it seems to me, to his campaign promises and being decisive and using the strength of the American military, which he has already shown a great respect for. So I want to segue a little bit about North Korea. You know, a new report says that North Korea could be preparing a new nuclear test. And if they do, how should President Trump respond?
Well, the more fascinating question is, what are the Chinese going to do?
Yes.
The Chinese have moved 150,000 troops to the North Korean border. They have changed their purchases of coal and have tightened up on sanctions against North Korea. And they have said publicly that the North Koreans had better not engage in this nuclear test. And remember, if it's an underground facility, what we just proved in Afghanistan was we have weapons which, without going nuclear, we have huge non-nuclear conventional weapons that could take out these kind of facilities. So I think the Chinese are trying to say to him, look, you got to take President Trump seriously. This is not like the good old days, and you better be careful. So the first reaction ought to be, let's look at the Chinese, who, by the way, did abstain at the UN, and President Trump was exactly right to say this was a major step in the right direction when on the Syrian resolution they abstained, leaving the Russians all by themselves as the only country voting no.